Welcome back, Gadgeteers. Today we're going to talk again about the Lenovo Yoga 920. If you watched my previous video titled Why I Won't Buy a Yoga 920, this one we're going to title Why I'm Considering Buying a Yoga 920. So obviously some things must have changed if I've decided that it's worth looking at and I should consider buying the 920, and that's exactly right. Some things have changed. Most importantly, my situation has changed. In the coming months, my wife is going to be working away from home and her employer is going to set her up with a hotel room. So she's asked if I want to come along. I got to thinking about that. Well, yes, I do actually, but my main system, which is my Dell 5675 8-core 1700 Ryzen system, is the main system I'm using. I have several laptops. I've got the Yoga 910 behind me here. I have the Macbook Pro 2017 13-inch base model edition, which works very well. And I also have the 2015 MacBook 12-inch model, which works well. But none of my laptops are 4-core systems. So my thinking was I probably would be better off with a 4-core system for editing purposes, and I should take a look at what's out there. Now, the first thing I looked at was the MacBook Pro 15-inch, and it's a beautiful system, but I couldn't justify paying the price tag on that system coming in at $2,599. That's just too expensive to me for what I want to do. The other reason I've decided not to look at another MacBook Pro isn't just the expense, but the fact is I'm thinking I want a system that is very powerful for me for both Linux and, when I need it, Windows. So I'm looking at shifting to something that is going to be my Linux computer when I'm on remote, when I'm out there and I can't use my main system here back at the office. So I decided to take another look at the Yoga 920. Now, if you watched my previous video, you know my first, well, not my first, but my most critical thing about the Yoga 920 was the pricing. The system they were releasing was $1799 in comparison to the Yoga 910 I have with the same specs. Of course, the 920 was $1799, and I can get the 910. Well, I did get the 910 for $1499, so it was a considerable difference. Well, that's changed a little bit. Now you can get the Yoga 920 for $1599, which I think is a much more reasonable price. We talked about the cost of inflation over the last couple of years, and it would be somewhere between $80 to $100 for inflation over the last few years from the Yoga 910 to the Yoga 920. So this is more in keeping with what I would expect. My second reason for my change of heart on whether or not I would buy a Yoga 920 is looking at some of the reviews. Now, I've been very impressed with some of the stats that these reviewers have been coming up with, especially as it concerns processor strength. It's important to me to be able to count on the processor to do rendering of video and processing of video using Handbrake, and at least one reviewer, Mobile Tech Review, did show that Handbrake speeds were considerably faster over the older Yoga 910 and some of her other systems that she was testing.
The other important thing here is Intel 8th generation 15-watt quad-core Ultrabook CPUs. It used to be those were dual cores, but Intel doubled the number of cores, upping performance by up to 40%. Now, it starts with a low base clock speed, these Intel 8th gen quad-core CPUs for Ultrabooks, but it can turbo boost quite a bit, and you can see the performance on the graphs there. It manages to turbo boost enough to really give you some significantly good performance. Even real-world tests, like I do Handbrake exports of video just to test the CPU and integrated GPU, and yeah, it's almost twice as fast.
So, taking into account those reviews and considering also that I'm now in the market for a stronger 4-core portable system and the pricing of a MacBook Pro 2015 and the fact that I really am trying to move more towards Linux even more than I already am and out of the Mac ecosystem even more, I really think I would be better served with the most efficient, most lightweight, best system, and in my opinion it's looking like the Lenovo Yoga 920. Now, I did see a review where they think it beats the HP Spectre, and I'm thinking that since I've always liked Lenovo anyway, it probably would be a good system to stick with. There's some things that were fixed that we talked about before. One of them was the fact that the system now has the cam at the top. Unlike my system here, I have a chin cam down here, which makes me look pretty bad. Ouch. And I really think that I would like to have the cam at the top. Now, there are ways to work around that. You can put it in tent mode and simply shoot your video that way. But then you kind of need to have a Bluetooth keyboard, or you're going to be stuck using the on-screen keyboard, which doesn't work all that well in Linux, as you know. Now, even though I've gotten used to the shift key is longer and normal, so it's a normal size and situated in the place that you would expect it to be on the right-hand side. My system, of course, has that tiny little shift key on the right side. I have gotten used to it, though. It is easy to get used to and just slightly retrain your typing style, and it only takes, for me, a matter of minutes, and I was fine. I found that if I do switch to another laptop with a normal shift key, I get a little bit lazy on my typing, and then what happens when I go back to the Lenovo Yoga 910 is I will hit the up arrow shift key, which is taking up that space where the shift key normally is, for the first 2 or 3 times, and I end up arrowing up, which does make a bit of a mess of things, and then I have to realize, hey, I didn't actually type a capital letter. I moved my cursor up and I'm just typing there. So it does take a little time to fix. So it'd be nice to have the shift key back where it belongs. I was concerned about processor heat and throttling because of the heat, because I know that the fan system and the heat sink is essentially the same on the Yoga 910 and 920. Now, the Yoga 920, of course, is running at a slower clock speed, but it does have a 8 megabyte on-die cache versus the 910, which has a 4 megabyte on-die cache. So all these things considered appear to be taking advantage of the system architecture, and because of that, even though the system does have to run the fan, it's definitely faster and more speedy than its Yoga 910 counterpart, based on the reviews that I'm seeing. Now, with the Yoga 910, there are 3 modes in the BIOS. There is the high performance mode, the balanced mode, and the quiet mode, and I'm sure the Yoga 920 has something similar in its UEFI BIOS. I found that I run mine most of the time in the quiet mode, and when I do rendering or processing, and I have tested this, I'll take a video and I'll render it in one mode, usually quiet mode, and I'll time it. Well, actually, when I'm in Linux using my video editor of choice, Kdenlive, it will give me the final render time for me. So I write that down, and then if I'm not busy, I go ahead and reboot, change the BIOS mode to balanced, which seems to do exactly as good as high performance mode, and reboot into balanced mode and render it again just to see what the timing is, and almost always it's nearly identical or off by just a small percentage, maybe 2 or 3 percentage points. So it's pretty clear if the fan needs to ramp up, it will do so. It just doesn't get quite as loud. I really love the Yoga 910 system. My thinking is I really should look at a more powerful system on the road. Now, I have heard in the reviews, and according to Lenovo, which of course you should never give the company credence when they issue a statement, you should look at the independent reviews. Most importantly, you don't want to look at paid reviews. I have heard that there is a 40% increase in some processor intensive tasks. I always take that with a grain of salt. I'm really thinking more like 20 to 30%. But I'm thinking that I definitely have an interest in the system. Let me know what you think. I'm very curious to see what your opinion is and what systems you've been out there purchasing as of late and how those particular systems have been working out for you. I certainly don't need to get one, so I may end up just staying with the Yoga 910. The processing time isn't a huge deal, But I will say, when I compare it to my Ryzen 7 system here, I have taken 40-minute, 50-minute videos, rendered them on the Ryzen system here, and it gets done in 30 to 40 minutes. And when I render it on my Yoga 910, it can take 2.5 hours. So depending on how long the video is, how many filters I've used, etc., etc. So any type of performance improvement that I can eke out of my system would definitely be of benefit. So my thinking is it's time to look at a 4-core system that is also portable. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Like and subscribe. I would really appreciate your subscription. I'm trying to get those numbers up so I can get some paid advertisers to come in on my channel, which would always be a benefit for not just me, but for you, so I can release more video content and increase the quality. I'm looking at buying new equipment this winter because of a fairly decent tax return that I'm getting, so I'm always trying to invest back in my channel. I don't go gung-ho like some channels do, but I think the investments I'm looking at will work well for the channel. One of the things I want to do is get a new Sony AX53 4K camera. I've been using my Galaxy Note 4, which works great, and I have a webcam that I'm shooting on right now, which I also bought to get more equipment to improve the channel. Also, I always like to hear your comments, so I appreciate it when you drop me a comment. I especially want to know this time what system you're using and what you would consider buying. And finally, if you could share it, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Fast Gadgets.